on YouTube, this is going to be review our part 3 to our ongoing series on memory, cognition, and your ability for you to regulate your own immune system through your memory alone. You can impact the function of your vagus nerve by accessing your memory. How cool is that? You don't need a device to do this. But if you have an impacted vagus nerve, you probably do need a device at least to get your vagus nerve working, right? Walk before you run, so to speak. So what we're going to do here is do a quick review, really fun little session on what we covered last week, which was the 10-part memory series. Very, 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 very important aspect of general overall health is making sure that you have a good visual memory, okay? So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to open this up and show y'all. How do I get this to go away? There we go. We're going to open this up. You're going to see it on my screen. And Final Cut. We need to open up the final of the cut. There we go. Boom. Okay, good. You get to see my dashboard. You get to see the dashboard, all the memory things that we work on here. Okay. Who recognizes this from last week? Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the initial PEG items, the PEG video list. And then what I want you to do is from memory, if you watched the last video, part 2, where we stored things, and I'll call them out after we go through the 10. But just for you, to test you, I want you to either just out of your memory, remember what number 1 was, okay? Okay, good. So here we go. We're going to play this here on the screen. Where are we at? And there we go. So what was number 1 from last week? We pegged it to a tie. What was the item that we squeezed so tightly that we crushed it? It was a gold item that you wear. Also, you might wear around your neck. What was that item? Starts with an L. Second item, 2, Noah's Ark. What was the animal in this case that we put on Noah's Ark from last week? Just say it out loud. Say it out to yourself. You don't need to write it down, but just say it. Okay, what was the third thing that was laying on the grass that the lawnmower ran over and shredded into a bajillion little pieces? Okay. Starts with an S. It's 4 letters. It's brown colored. Not that. 4. Row. So what was the item that was associated with the number 4 from last week? Or if you watched the video more recently, what was that? It would be in part 2. Okay, number 5. What was the item that the 5 law police officer was running towards? Okay. Something that you eat. It was an item that you eat. You cook it. It's a baked good. Right? What was it? Okay. Next one, number 6. Joy. What were we pouring Joy dish detergent all over and getting all sudsy and soapy? Something you used to put pieces of paper together. Starts with an S. 7. Key. What was jumping around on top of the big thing that you would see? Maybe, see animals roaming on top of a big green grassy, 8. Fee. What was the food item we had involved here in this scene? I had you remember a food item, something you might melt, something that you might crumble, something you might add a salad. It's kind of really good. You find it in France. 9. Pie. What was the thing that the little kid I told you to was putting into the pie? What was the kid sticking into? There would be 9 of those items, little white things made out of ivory. What would they put in there? 10. Toes. Toes. What was associated with 10 on the list from last week? You might have seen the toes wearing some kind of an outfit, ready to go lift weights at the 3 letters. Okay, good. Awesome. So how'd you do? Write in the chat. Did you remember some of your items that we had you remember from last week? Good. So just quickly in the chat, if you remembered some of them, then I would say this: gauge yourself. Just roughly, how do you feel you did from a scale from 1 to 10, and being able to recall the items that we pegged last week. And now here's why this is important for you to get. It's essentially this. How is anyone going to take you seriously? How is anyone going to take you on as a client, as a therapist, to treat your memory disorders related to trauma if you can't simply remember a list of 10 things, right? Because what are they going to do? Hey, do you remember the time when you were young and this happened? Oh, well, I have a fuzzy memory, but if you remember things enough, they'll change. So if you can't accurately recall something that happened 10 years ago, if you can't remember something that I gave you a week ago with a very clear system of memory, how is a therapist going to accurately work with your memory? That's what therapy is. Your mental health therapy counselor is doing memory work. So you can't get, work on your memory if you have a poor memory. So that's why this group is so important, because we're not just looking at, I'm not just trying to feed you a line of BS like, oh, you got to release your trauma, right? It's just not gonna work. So that's why this memory training is so important. And I would say if you go into our phase 2 program, we're gonna get you up to 100 of these items. We have a list of 100. I have the whole timeline. I'll just show you real quick. We have the whole timeline. So phase 2 training is getting you to the point where you don't even need mental health therapy or anything like that. Here. 14. We've got 14. We've got tail, tack, TV, tape, none, Nero, nail, knob, man, male, mug, rhino. The list literally goes all the way up, right? And we have people that are in our program by doing vagus nerve stimulation who are able to recall the full 100 item list. And that's because, when your vagus nerve is stimulated, it increases cholinergic activity, which is a requirement for memory. So if you're going through trauma therapy and you have a poor memory, you're basically just tossing money. Look, if you have money to burn, folks, in this economy, then by all means, just continue to throw it away. But you could go into 2, 3, 4 therapy sessions max and get in and get out and get the results you need. But as long as you continue to show up to therapy and continue to spend money on these trauma release programs, and you still go home with a really bad memory, you are literally just wasting money. You are wasting your time and you're wasting your therapist's time, right? So phase 2 is an investment that gets you to 100. And then the therapy becomes, boom, it's remembered, it's integrated, it's part of a system, it's just literally there, right? So I see in the chat we got an 8 out of 10, which was literally like what something we did a week ago, and we're still getting 8 out of 10 memory, right? 9 out of 10. That's amazing, right? I have 10 out of 10. Okay, so real quickly, I just want to review, because some people may not have, they're like, did I get the list right? So last week, I'll play. Last week, number 1 was locket. We said locket, a golden locket squeezed by the tie. That was the memory thing that we did. The locket was the item to remember. Number 2 was penguin. So penguin, you might have seen maybe 2 penguins flying around the deck on Noah's Ark. How cool is that, right? Number 3 was mo sack, was a brown burlap sack that was laid down there. So if you were here last week, you would have said, 3 sack. You would have seen it super clear in your head. 4 row was a rib cage, like one single rib was it. You might have seen them rowing with ribs in their hands. You might have seen them not in a rowboat, but in a rib. You just get creative. Number 5, he was running towards a chocolate chip cookie. That was the item, right? 6, Joy was stapler, right? Stapler was the item to remember. 7, key was hill. We saw keys roaming on a hill, eating grass, and that kind of thing. 8, Fafi was cheese. We had you remember the word cheese was the item visually. I had you melting cheese on his receipt. 9, Papai was dominoes, right? So little ivory painted dominoes being stuck, 9 of them stuck into a pie and getting goo all over the place. And then 10, toes was gym. So that was the 10th item on that list. So yeah, if you had been here last week and remembered that, if I had just literally asked you today what this was, you would have been like, oh, clear as day. I know what it is. And I could ask you in when it's not in order, right? Most people may be able to get 7 out of 10, but only if you ask them from 1 to 10 in order, because they have it sequentially memorized. Who can tell me what number 2 was without me even going back there? It was penguins. What was number 8? Was cheese. What was number 5? Chocolate chip cookie. You can remember it completely in and out of order, and you'll notice if you're in a good therapy session, part of the therapy is actually scrambling the order of events so they have less weight and less valence. I mean, imagine if you were traumatized, like just take the corollary of a traumatic memory that you had, like a car accident, was remembered in your mind as like a locket, penguin, a sack laying on the ground, a rib, a chocolate chip cookie, a stapler, and that every time you remember that you have an association with like, oh my God, the stapler, it was the thing they used to, smash my window, right? But then there was cheese, and then there was dominoes on the ground, and then there was a gym nearby. And if you had it all in sequential order, your brain would go from one to the other. But if you can remember it out of order and scramble the order, you lose the emotional valence. Here's the fact. You're never going to release a memory, you guys. Your brain is like an elephant. Elephants are traumatized, but they're not releasing memories, right? Elephants don't release trauma, okay? They don't forget stuff, right? But they can be fully functioning elephants in the wild, okay? So you can be a fully functioning elephant out in the wild, but have a traumatic childhood. And we know for a fact that elephants do not forget they don't forget things at all. And you don't forget things either. So if somebody's trying to tell you that you're releasing your memory, they're completely filling you up with a load of horse, okay? Horse chocolate chip cookies, okay? So yeah, by having the ability to learn with an innocuous, neutral groundwork that isn't triggering to you, right? Nobody's triggered by a rib or a chocolate chip cookie, but you're learning the corollary parallel control mechanisms that help you then go to the traumatic thing and say, hey, I have the skills to show up to this and actually effectively work with my trauma, right? I'm not an anti-trauma word person. Some people have accused me of that. They're like, what do you have against the word trauma? I have nothing against the word trauma. I'm telling you that the framing of releasing trauma or forgetting your memory is bull. It's total BS. You can't do that. I have a question here. Are animals releasing the charged energy from the event? Just as much as you are releasing charged energy, if you're able to remember the list I gave you last week out of order. What is that? It's releasing, it's basically, think of it like this. You have 10 positions in your brain sequentially listed. Every time you go like this, you amplify the energy there. But if I start having you remember it out of order, you decrease the energy of that neural pathway. That's all it is, right? It's not your body releasing the energy or anything like that. It's just changing the neural connectivity, right? It's like this. One of the reasons, think about it. One of the reasons I made a change to the Vegas Cure website recently was because it took too many clicks to access the links to purchase the TENS unit or the intensity unit. It took probably like 7 clicks to get there. That created a barrier for people to take action, right? So, but what I've done is I've now done it so you get there in 3 clicks. 1 click, 2 click, 3 clicks, and you're done. So what that does is did I release the energy for it? That's the kind of framing is like just, it's a logical thing. Like think about this. If you were trying to make a phone call back in the 1950s, who remembers having to call an operator and say, can you get me Chicago? Right? You're calling from Los Angeles to Chicago. You have to call the main federal call switch center to talk to a woman in a telephone booth, and she patches you in. And then she patches you to Chicago. And then you talk to Chicago and you say, oh, I need so-and-so. And then she has to patch you to another thing, right? She patches you into another thing. There's energy there, right? So this whole idea of releasing energy is like, this just doesn't make sense. You're just changing the pathway. Either the pathway is longer or it's shorter. Is it easier now to, like, think about this. Compare it today. Let's say you have an ex who is just calling you on your iPhone all the time. He picks up his phone, he calls you, it rings you, and you're triggered by that, okay? It's the same thing with a traumatic memory, okay? Wouldn't it, like, how much of the, back in the 50s, would your toxic ex think twice if they had to, just to be able to dial you up? Well, I mean, if they're really committed to it, to call their local operator with their dial phone, shh, shh, and then, you know, imagine this is we're making the energy chain much more diffuse. They can still call you, but it's just taking them a lot more time, and the energy has expended by the time it reaches you, right? We all know about momentum. So if I throw a ball in the air, it's fast at first, but it loses energy by the time it hits peak and it falls backwards, right? So the further you are away from something energetically, how do you do that in the brain? You can't move yourself away from yourself, right? Unless you meditate. And so, but in the sense, you're still doing that. So what we're doing is we're teaching you because you already have a call center in your brain that knows where to dial to traumatize you. You were traumatized in the first place because somebody picked you to traumatize because they knew you were weak in that sense. They knew that you were a traumatizable person. You were targeted by that person because they knew that I have the mainline ability to traumatize you once and traumatize you forever because you have a weak will of memory. And I'm teaching you, hey, here's how the operating system works. And we can make it so that if that old trauma, which you're never going to release, you're not releasing trauma, you're not forgetting things, but we're saying, hey, if you want to dial my consciousness, if you want to pop up, if you want to rear your ugly ass, nasty head, you know, in the middle of my day and try to ruin my day, you're going to have to jump through about 10 hoops to get there, okay? And you're going to diffuse the energy. There's still energy, right? It's still there, but now you're making it jump through your hoops rather than you jumping through its hoops. So, yeah, so take the toxic ex. Today, your toxic traumatic memory has a direct line to your brain and is just calling you up and saying, hey, remember that time that you were, you know, such a wuss, and, you know, I totally made an example out of you in public, and I'm going to make you remember that randomly just because I want to. That's the instantaneous call that you're dealing with trauma. And with the system that we're teaching you, we're having it go, okay, no longer can it just call you. Now it has to dial, ring, ring. Hello, operator, where would you like to be? Hi, I'd like to be in Joan Cass's brain. Which region of the brain would you like to be in? I don't know. Sorry, call back when you know. Brr. Then you prevent it from even rising up into consciousness. And that's it. Because you're not releasing trauma. You don't release trauma. It's a bullshit framing. It's bullshit. I'm just telling you. So anyway, but I see some great, great comments in chat here. So what I want to do now is present you with a second list, actually. So we're going to go with another list of different items and just quickly throw that into the 10. I want to free you now of the Locket Penguin system. Okay, you've been, I guess, at the whim of that for too long now, and it's about time that we change the relationship to that. Okay. All right. So I have a new list, and it's going to be the 10-point list for September 16th, 2022. Let me just vet it. 1. I have to put the numbers in here for you. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. All right, so I'm going to put the 10 in the chat here, and you'll see the 10 in the chat in YouTube. And boom. Make sure nothing's too North Pole. We'll say North Pole. Coal, Porch, yeah, that looks good. Backrub. Okay, good. Okay, so 10-point list for September 16th, 2022. Boom, in the chat. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to help you remember this and integrate this. So we're going to literally watch. We're going to overlap. You're going to forget what we learned last week. We're going to forget what we did today, but you're never going to forget it because you could, if I asked you next week, what was the original list that started with locket? You'd be like, locket, penguin, sack, rib, chocolate chip cookie. You could probably remember it if it was integrated well enough. But you're also going to now remember this new list of items, okay? So the new list here is going to be, let me see. I don't need to put it on the list. I'm just going to speak it out to you. Okay, so number 1 for you to remember is going to be coal. Coal. C-O-A-L. So in the first position, you're going to remember coal, which is like, you know, dark coal that you burn for fuel. So you're just going to see a big block of coal with a tie around it being squeezed. See the coal with its own hands, like little cartoon white gloved hands with black soot on them, squeezing so tight that it actually crushes and cracks the coal and it breaks into little pieces, like almost like kind of destroying itself, just like we did with the locket, but it's coal. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, Noah's Ark. You're going to put the item porch. So you're going to see a porch. So you're going to see people on a porch, on a deck with a big umbrella outside drinking mimosas on a Sunday on their porch outside. But instead of a green grassy lawn, it's going to be the ocean, and they're going to be like, "Woo, this is crazy!" And their mimosas are going to be spilling all over the porch, and their mimosas are going to spill on the porch on the deck and spray all over the place. And then water is going to start, you know, pelting this nice deck, this wooden deck, this porch, and cleaning up the mimosas. So that's number 2. All right, so remember, let's go back real quick just so we're on the same page. Number 1, what was number 1? One tie is coal. Number 1 is coal. The item to remember this week is coal, a black single brick of coal being squeezed and crushed. Number 2 is porch. Number 2, on Noah's wacky wild ride, is a porch. You're going to see maybe Noah on the deck, but a porch on Noah's Ark, okay? So just see the porch. And take your mind, take your vision, because this could be a little bit hard. I want you to just continually take your vision and like continually look at the table sitting on the porch with the mimosas and people drinking, and then just take your vision and follow the mimosa as it falls over, and just focus your attention on the wood of the porch, and just say porch, Noah, Noah, porch, 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 and then see the porch as the wood, and keep on seeing that, okay? So that we really embed that in your brain. Like repetition of memory does help integrate it, but the more visual, the more interactive it is. Maybe you see the porch ripping into 2 halves and a portal opening up into the water, right? Something like that. So see the porch. Now, third item, mow. 3, mow is coat. So I want you to see a nice coat on the grass being just ripped up. Just see this like nice, maybe it's like a nice long wool coat that you would wear to a nice event with a nice, you know, collar, long one, whatever kind of coat you love or whatever makes you remember it better, but a nice woolen coat. I just want you to see it being literally pulled in and pulverized and thrown out everywhere, okay? Just see it being like just shredded, okay? 3, mow, coat. Say it out loud. If you say it out loud, it's better. 3, mow, coat, okay? Real quick review. What was number 1? 1, tie, coal. Coal. Black coal. 2, Noah was a porch. A porch. See the porch. See it again in your mind's eye. And 3, mo was coat. Was a wool coat. Could be any kind of coat, but the word is coat. However you want to remember it is good. So 4, row, is lobster, okay? So instead of seeing people rowing the boat, see big lobsters rowing the boat. Big ones with their big, big claws and everything. See that. So see lobsters rowing a big old boat. Maybe you see lobsters in the ocean, in the water, but just see that big lobster you'd see at Red Lobster, but rowing a boat, right? Maybe you see them grabbing the oars so tightly that they're actually squeezing and crushing the oars in their hand, and they're just like, "Uh-oh, we have no more weight. We can't continue rowing because we've crushed the rowboat with our big claws." See them as life-size. Don't see little tiny ones, but see huge, life-sized, 6-foot tall lobsters rowing a boat, right? So you'll go 4, row, lobster. Okay, 4, lobster. Good. Now number 5. Number 5 is popsicle. So I want you to see that police officer on a really hot ass day running towards a big, nice cherry or strawberry popsicle. It's a hot day. See sweat just dripping down his brow. And he is just running towards this popsicle that is life-sized. It's a 6-foot tall popsicle with legs running away. And then I want you to see the police officer tackling the popsicle. And it's one of those popsicles that's like frozen ice around a stick. And you know what happens when you bite down on a popsicle? It just breaks in half. And I want you to see that popsicle just breaking all over the grass and being crushed, right? And then maybe you see the police officer rubbing his face against the side, and getting some of that like kind of fruit juice, that like frozen fruit juice on his face, and just being like, "Oh my God." And then, so something like that. So 5, la, popsicle, right? 5, la, popsicle. Good. Next one. Joy, dish detergent. 6 is the North Pole. So I want you to transport your butt up to the North Pole, and I want to see there's a big oil spill in the North Pole, and they're dousing Joy dish detergent everywhere to try and clean up the oil spill in the North Pole, right? So Joy dish detergent, they're spraying. They have huge barges made out of floating Joy dish detergents, big plastic boats, shooting Joy dish detergent all over the North Pole, getting it all over Santa Claus, getting it all over his minions, and trying to clean up the oil spill in the North Pole. Okay? So now ask yourself right now, do you think if I asked you that in 5 minutes, if I said 6, joy, what comes to mind? I want you to make sure you really amplify the memory, the visual interactivity. It's not just, you're going to do poorly at this if you just say 6, joy, North Pole. You have to see it or get a feel for it in your mind's eye to some degree of some interactivity, or just say it out loud. 6, joy, North Pole, spraying Joy dish detergent over a oil spill in the North Pole to clean it up. Santa Claus is getting covered in the North Pole with Joy dish detergent, and it's making his reindeer really sluggish, and they're covered in soap. Something like that will help you remember this, okay? It's the narrative. It's the story. All right, moving on. 7, key. Key is rug. Okay, this is a great one. So you're going to be in your house. There's a big key. You just walked in the door, but the key is like huge. It's a huge key. You just came home and you drop the key that's now 3 feet long, and it punctures a huge hole and rips into your really nice rug. The nice rug on the inside, maybe it's one of those like nice Iranian Persian rugs that you spent like $20,000 on. And you're like, oh my God, almost like you burned a hole in your rug. You see this big, huge key and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So key, 7, key, rug. Okay. Make sure you see that rug. Keep your focus on that, and make sure you see like it would be by the door. You enter in your house. the key expands so big, it gets so heavy that you drop it, and it like literally rips a huge hole across your entire rug, and you're like, oh my God, my mom's gonna kill me. Okay, so that's 7 key. 8 fee is Backrub. Okay, so you're gonna see this this fine young man has gotten a Backrub. He gets the fee for it, 8 fee, and he's just like, oh my God, this is a $2,000 Backrub. What is going on? But you can see someone maybe see someone giving him a Backrub. Like, in your mind's eye, overlay over this. It's very easy. See maybe a pretty person standing behind him, rubbing his back, saying it's okay. You're going to be able to afford this. We'll put it on credit. We'll finance it for you. It's going to be, but he's just like, oh my God, he's torn. He's like, this is the best Backrub I've ever received, but this is so expensive. I didn't expect this. Oh my gosh. Right? Okay. So now if I say to you, what was number 8? Fee, you're going to go back to this image of this very concerned young man being like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But see someone right behind him giving him a Backrub. Okay. Good. 9, pie. The word to remember is DVD. DVD. We all know a DVD. So I want you to see that you open up a DVD. You're really excited to get it, but you drop it right into a big pie, and it gets pie all over the DVD. You try taking the DVD. Oops, let me stop that. It's going forward for me. You see the DVD disc covered in red jam from this big pie, and then you try to still stick it in your DVD player thinking, well, it could work, and then it starts spinning up and you hear this kind of like sucking noise and this all nasty gear whirring and breaking, and the DVD logo just looks like a big pie all over your screen, and then pie starts shooting out of your DVD player, pie gel and pie crumbles, and then the TV itself starts turning into a pie, and so there's pie and DVDs just scattered all over the place, and you're walking around now, and your feet are big pies. You have big pies for shoes, and you're trying to walk on top of DVDs, but they slip, and you fall, and then you get your body's a pie, and then there's DVD discs and the cases, and then you try to go to a Blockbuster Video, but they're closed, and now they become a pie shop. Okay, so anyway, you can just see there's a number of ways to really amplify the dimensionality of it. And this is what you do when you re-traumatize yourself. You think of new ways to kind of remember it, and you remember it visually in multiple ways, from this perspective, from that perspective. And you can see why you can re-traumatize yourself very, very well. But you can also remember things really well too. So anyway, moving on, number 10 is mouse pad. Mouse pad. So I want you to see these 10 toes, using a mouse pad. And I have a mouse pad. We don't use mouse pads too often these days. I still have a mouse pad. But you have a mouse pad, and it's nice and soft. And I want you to see those 10 toes rubbing on the mouse pad, but with so much force is shifting the mouse pad and actually like tossing it off the table. With so much force is rubbing the mouse pad on your desk, and then actually just like tossing it with the mouse off the table, picking up the mouse pad and grabbing it in between the big toe and the middle toe, and wobbling it like this, and hearing the like the wobbly sound that you would make with a mouse pad in between the toes. And then I want you to see you sitting at your desk and then looking at your mouse pad, and it's just a picture of like thousands of pictures of 10 toes, of baby toes, okay? So you see that. And then when you think of the toes, maybe you can also think of you having a little computer station set up on the pad of the toes, of the 10 toes, and there's a desktop computer and a mouse pad sitting there, and you go and actually like put your hand in and start clicking on the mouse pad with your mouse. Okay? So multiple ways to kind of remember mouse pad and 10 toes. Now, once you get better with this, it will literally take you 10 seconds tops to just literally remember it. Your brain will do what I'm saying for you automatically once you get proficient at this, right? So you won't have to spend this much time or effort and attention. And when I want to remember something, it's just like instantaneous, okay? So let's do a really quick review. All right, so I'm going to go back to number 1, and you can just call these out. So number 1 was coal. 1 ta tai was coal. Okay, big, maybe a human life-sized item of coal putting on a tie, crushing itself. 2 Noah was, what was it? Say it out loud or say it whatever. Was porch. A porch. You're going to see a big porch breaking in two because the storm is so intense on Noah's Ark. 3 mo was which item? It was what was getting cut up. What was a thing you would wear? It was a coat. Maybe a nice dark wool coat you would wear in the winter, right? Number 4, row. What was rowing the boat? What was the thing that was in there? If you guessed lobster, you'd get it correct. That's very good. So lobster, you want to see big life-sized lobsters rowing the boat and crushing the rows in their hand. 5, what was the item he's running towards? It's a hot day out. He's sweating. He needs something to cool him down in this big outfit. It was popsicle. Big yellow lemon popsicle or a strawberry popsicle. Okay, what was 6? Joy was North Pole. I immediately see, the North Pole, an oil spill, cleaning it up with Joy dish detergent, and Santa Claus is somehow involved, getting soap and stuff on him and everything. 7, key. I'm entering the door. The key gets so big, I drop it, and it rips a huge slash in my rug, my Persian rug. That was the item, rug. 7, key, rug. Next one, 8, fee. I immediately see someone standing behind this fine young man, giving him a back rub, which is the word, back rub. 8, fee, back rub. So he's like, oh my God, how am I going to pay for this back rub? Oh my God. 9, pie. I'm immediately seeing DVDs being opened up, falling into the pie, putting it into the DVD player. The DVD now is spitting out pie gel all over the place. It's just a mess. Okay, I'm going to Blockbuster with the DVD. 10, toes. I immediately want to reach out and then put a mouse pad on the bottom of that toe of that foot and start controlling my computer. So 10, toes was mouse pad. Great. Awesome. So now you should thoroughly have these in your brain, right? There should be really at this point in time no real doubt as to what these items were. So very good. Type into the chat how you guys did. We're going to end that here for the YouTube folks, and I want you to come back next week and we're going to do a review. Okay? And then what I want you to do for yourself privately is tonight, I just want you to sit down without looking at any notes tonight or tomorrow. Actually, just do this tomorrow, Saturday. If you can remember, I just want you to sit down and go, okay, what was number 1, tie, and coal? And then I want you to just, without anything, just test yourself. This is what I did, and just see how you're able to do. Did you properly remember it? If so, what did you do right? And if you didn't get it right, what could you have done differently in the future to have better integrated that visual memory? Remember, metrics are the more visual, the more interactive, the more memorable, the funnier they are, the more comedic or whatever, the more they're going to be remembered. Or the more emotional they can be, the more they're going to be remembered, right? That's how your memory works. That's why this is a trauma therapy. But we need to teach you the framework first before you can ever do that work that is still required. So anyway, thanks so much for watching us on YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that fun jazz. We're growing this YouTube channel, and we're going to end it here on YouTube. Thanks so much.